Hey guys, it's Turok, and today I'm trying to think of a new introduction. Today's a good day, I guess I'll just say. It quite looks like it's about to rain where I am, but it's not gonna let that dampen my mood because One Piece 1113 chapter just came out, and it's a good one again. We the ending is the cliffhanger. Oda left us another cliffhanger. Um, so the last chapter here, the Gorosei started making their move, and well, they already have been, but now it's looking pretty bad here to some extent because they're now dividing up their efforts so that they can make sure they can stop the Straw Hats and Bonnie and the message most of all from Vegapunk. He had Saturn is coming up there and going after the Straw Hats. Where well, I don't even think he knew they were there. It implies he didn't really know they were there, but he gets up there to the Laboface dome and meets where Usopp and Nami and Robin are. Uh, and then what's his name? Mars and York are working together to find where Vegapunk's transmission is, and Ethan corners and is cutting off with the escape of Bonnie and Frankie and the others there with at right at the foot of the giant ship around right after they had defeated they successfully defeated the vice admirals though. So it was, I was a little worried about the vice admirals, but Frankie and the other between like Frankie and Bonnie especially, if I recall, they uh they were handling them quite well. Uh, like Bonnie had taken de-aged the guy who's got the otter zone and stopped him from and then Frankie took out the other one. I don't have their names actually. I'm trying to remember what chapter that was. Hold on. I found the chapter. It was 1108 where they had some of their names. So there was Pomsky and Tosa. Well, no, who was the other one? There was where's the one with the neck? He was like red something. We saw him in I saw him in Pomsky particular. No, Tosa, yeah, Tosa got taken out by Dorian Bragi, and then in Pomsky and uh uh we haven't seen Bluegrass in the other one. What's her name? Doll for a while though. That a few chapters now. They were together on one of the sea beasts that Bluegrass took over. But they got so yeah, we saw Pomsky and the other one taken out by Frankie and Bonnie, but Ethan after taking out the Mark IIIs caught up to them, and then meanwhile uh, Luffy and Dorian Bragi are still dealing with Top Man and Shepard. They stayed behind to try and stop Luffy from escaping. I'm thinking. I think I said this in the last chapter too, but they're really at this point trying to nip it in the bud, as it were, with Luffy. They want to get rid of him now that he's awakened. I know I said this last time. They were hoping that they were really hoping Kaido would have been able to take out Luffy in their battle. Yeah, they were hoping that Kaido was going to finish off Luffy because they know. Because it seems that it's never been directly said, but based on their what they talked about when Luffy awakened in that conversation, when we see Luffy awaken and then refight with Kaido, it really had like implied that they must have known from the moment Luffy defeated Crocodile that who he was. It probably wouldn't. So like, that was like Luffy's next big moment. So when Luffy took out Arlong, that's when he got his first bounty, and then he left the East Blue. And then I'm guessing, wise, I'm thinking it was like only 2 to 3 weeks later that he ends up taking out Crocodile, and really gets to notice. And that's when he gets the Gorosei's attention, and they're at the top of the world. And Luffy at that point just got a 100 million billion bounty, which is now 1/30th of what he's got now. So at that point, were trying to get rid of him, and even at that point, I think it was Son Goku tried to get Luffy too, because he kept causing problems in the scheme of getting of the Warlord part, because Luffy defeated Crocodile and then defeats Moria sometime later, and that's right after destroying Enies Lobby too. So I think that was Son Goku, right? That orders was that him that ordered Kuma to kill the Straw Hats? Thriller Bark, I think so. Anyways, yeah, it's this very interesting that I'm getting it. Yeah, it says Shepard and Top Man, two of them together, thinking, okay, we got to stay here, while the other three are going to help because they're trying to do. Basically, I'm getting is they're trying to do many things at once. They got to stop first of all, they want to stop now. The priority now is to stop the broadcast. Two, to get Bonnie because she can control all the pacifistas that they have because they're trying to maintain the resources. They want to get rid of. They got rid of Vegapunk now, but they want to keep all the stuff he's given them, mainly the pacifistas and the Mother Flame. That's came up here. And three, now they want to get rid of the Straw Hats, especially Luffy. So they're spreading their effort, but two of them together are trying to focus on getting rid of Luffy now, because like it's funny because yeah, Saturn and Luffy were fighting a few chapters ago, and it was kind of like a stalemate because actually I think that's the name of this chapter today. It was a stalemate because Luffy is too fast and such for Saturn to actually hurt him and his wacky powers. But every time Luffy tries to harm Saturn, Saturn has been recovering quickly and taking no signs of any real damage. Uh, it's not like Luffy knows how to throw any ki blasts like Kaido and Big Mom. That's what I would like to see. This reminds me. This is funny because I was rewatching the fight between. I was rewatching some Dragon Ball Z, and we're watching where Cell fought Vegeta and Trunks. And Vegeta, despite being underpowered comparatively, like speed and strength wise to Cell, he pulls off that attack he calls Final Flash and managed to damage Cell. Although Cell wasn't like outputting his full power. If he had, he probably could have just blocked the attack. But Cell loses his arm, and it actually looked like it really hurt him. And then he grows it back because he's got the Namekian cells through Piccolo. But my point there is, thinking about Ki Blast, the Oda's kind of introduced that concept now, especially through weapon users in One Piece. We've had Roger, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, and Zoro off the top of my head, and Aoya and Shanks, who all can just using what their weapon, their each respective weapons, all those aforementioned characters wield, can throw their haki into these ki blast type things and damage somebody else. And Luffy just doesn't have that. Also, that's also actually I must mention too that it's not just weapon use. It's been primarily weapon users, but we see that Garp knows how to do that. So what I'm getting at this point is this is that's a good point. Luffy is that seems to be one of the next things I think Luffy will hopefully learn to increase his fighting repertoire against powerful foes and learning how to, because he in the last arc he learned how to do advanced armament haki, which can damage people like Kaido and Big Mom, but apparently that doesn't even work against Gorosei. I think now if he can learn how to do something like the way Garp does it, because Luffy and Garp fight pretty much the same way, maybe he could do some actual damage to the Gorosei. The other thing too, actually, I was quickly thinking the other day was interesting is that because Luffy's a zone, what if he ate Chopper's some of Chopper's rumble balls? Because whenever Chopper does that, that's how he turned. Well, that kind of turns Chopper only into a form that might be akin to his awakening. But Luffy, now that we know Luffy's a zone, I'm sure someone must have thought this before because Luffy could make Gear 2nd and then Gear 4th and stuff to amplify his abilities. I'm wondering if someone was probably already thought about that, like he could amplify himself even more. But he probably wouldn't have wanted to do it on Gear 4th unless there was an emergency up until he got Gear 5th, because Gear 4th was already such a strain on his body, especially because he was exerting so much of his haki to maintain the form as well. But I'm getting way off topic here now. Let's get into this. So, where's the chapter? So to finish off the final bit of the recap, yeah, we ended the cliffhanger with Marge. Him and York were working together to try to find the Denden Mushi broadcast to stop it, and because York wants to still uh, get in bed with them, with a metaphor to be a celestial dragon. And so she tried to. They first went to where the recording was. It's not there. Vegapunk was planning this ahead, and we see that he understood the full implications of this, and but also made a decoy. But he put it in a dangerous spot. Really, he he Mars ends up noticing that there's a Den Mushi up in the Punk Records area, and that's where we ended the chapter where he found it. One sitting there, and uh, we left it here him in this dark room and hearing all this noise, and then I kept thinking that something was there, like it was gonna be more ominous, but it really wasn't. So we start the chapter here with that, where we would continue with Mars here, looking at finding the brain, and you get a reveal in a moment. And first though, uh, we get to the part in the message though where Mars is like, Vegapunk's recording has reached the point where he left the recording on, and then what do you call it? Because he was waiting to make sure the whole world would have sufficient time to set up visual Den Mushis or even audio ones, so basically radio, to to listen to his message. So if he had just started a message after like a brief introduction, you could bet that at least half the world would not hear it because they probably wouldn't have got their thing out in time. All right, gotta get some coffee. Watching Vegapunk eating coffee made me go pause the video and get a recording and video some coffee. So now we're at the point. We're at the last 30 seconds now of Vegapunk's 10-minute lapse to give the world ready to time to set up to hear his message, and we actually get a little conversation too where Pythagoras. That's right, Pythagoras is dead, isn't he? I keep thinking some of those. I know Shaka. Yeah, those two are the ones that's kind of ominous in a way, isn't it? It's like there's three in the video. Three of them that are dead now, and Stella, Pythagoras, and Shaka. We don't see Edison in this chapter, by the way, where he went. But so we see Mars now, and he's looking up at what Vegapunk has set up, and it's quite impressive too. So Mars comments, "Oh, so your brain still lives after death. Is this your true self?" So we get a really big I can't even get this brightness, but we had a great shot of it, and it is enormous compared to what we saw last. I'm trying to think, did we see it at wait, did we see it at Kuma's flashback? I don't think so. This thing is easily about I think Mars is pretty tall. As we know, a lot of the One Piece characters, like Kizaru and such, are extremely tall characters compared to what would be natural in our world. So trying to use him as a reference, if he's gonna say, I'm gonna say maybe 8 feet tall. This thing looks like it's about what's 8 times 5? Like 40 feet long. So it's just his brain there, and it's still got the skin and his hair intact. It's been growing with it. His hair, everything's just growing as if his brain is expanding without any kind of like stretch marks or anything either. It's inside a huge globe, crystal ball shaped. Think of it. It got lots of machines connected to it. Also, the globe is suspended in liquid. It's got something around it at the top to help it stand erect and straight, like it still, while it's connected. It's sitting in the base inside some small circle to keep it straight, and that's probably what's like somehow connected and staying alive as well. Plus the liquid. And it's just an amazing thing to see. It's extremely wide too. It's like, so the panel really pulls out here so that we can see uh how across with Mars there, and there's like Mars is sitting on a platform. It's a there's a number of stairs. There's two sets of stairs and a uh and then the second set that's right up in front of it, and Mars is at the one in the middle, and he's looking up at it, and uh oh, it's just such a good and it just reads Punk Records. Also, how did the lights even turn on? Did they just turn on because they sensed Mars walking in? They have motion sensors because it was dark in the end of the last chapter when he first walked in there. So anyway, and Mars comments like, interesting thing, Ela. He comments like, "Oh, what's death when you're does death even have any meaning to someone like you when you're able to keep your brain alive like this? Is your conscious also housed here?" Uh, but then he stopped, what do you call it? Musing over this, and he goes up to the Denden Mushi that's just sitting there in that middle platform that was leading up to the brain, and he goes up to step on it. Um, so now we switch over. Actually, we switch over briefly to Kaya and Mary, and then those three kids of Usopp's friends briefly at Syrup Village, and and Kaya's getting ready to listen to the broadcast, and she's trying to see if asking Mary about. I think she's saying like, "Hey, do we have uh, a video transponder?" And he's like, "No, we don't have one. We should." I think he's trying to imply like, "Yeah, everyone in the village, we should be the one that you would be the only one who could afford one, but we never did get one." And and so, anyways, her and the boys there have gathered together in a dining area, or no, it looks like just a little room, and they got a regular Den Mushi there, and they're getting ready to listen to the message. And Kaya's looking good. I think her hair is different too. Did she cut it? I think it's a little shorter now, actually. So they're together, and you can see the boys have grown up a bit. Uh, and uh, and Mary's going out, and he's going to get some tea in preparation for the message. And and Kaya starts having a conversation with the boys about, hey, so she knows about him, and she brings this up here like because he's also a leading expert in medical fields as well. So she is implying, yes, she knows all about him because of his expertise there. Uh, and then the other two boys, the one boy with the apple head, he's like, "Oh yeah, I know all about him, and you too." And then the other one with the long hair, it's like, "Yeah, you're just lying to say." Like I think these kids were always like liars, kind of like Usopp, especially that one with the apple heads, and the other kids calling him out on that. And then the third one with the glasses, like, "Guys, you should take this more seriously. Vegapunk is a big deal in the One Piece world." He wouldn't say the One Piece world, but he's like he seems to actually understand the implications of how important Vegapunk is, even though the other two really don't. And we switch over to some other areas here quickly, briefly too. First, we go to the Marines at main base. Probably the these probably are the same ones I think we saw before that were listening in on the message between Sabo and Dragon when Leloucia, the Nothing Happened Leloucia incident, and they're listening in. And you got some of them transcribing stuff and talking together. But then I like this one. We switch to the Twin Capes briefly, or Reverse Mountain, and we see Crocus and Laboon together. And Crocus has his Denden Mushi out, and Laboon's up off right nearby him, listening in too. And I think that's the first time we've seen them in quite a while. Well, I know we saw Crocus in the flashback with Odin, but it's nice to see him still around in the present here. And then we switched to after that. Then we switched to Baltimore, Vegapunk's hometown, and where Frankie was during the time skip. And they got a town center area where they do have a video projector there, and they're watching the thing. and we see little kids talking to some of the adults, and saying, "Oh, I didn't know he was born here. He's a world famous scientist, and he came from our little old town." And some of the other adults are like, "Yeah, he's our pride and joy." And then there's some other one asking, "Oh, wasn't he the one who caused some ruckus a while back?" But like, no, that was just Frankie. That wasn't him. He was. And there's a joke here where uh, the rumor has spread that because of the wanted poster, that Frankie is now a ship. He, because they had the picture of the Sunny, they show this. um, wait, why does that one thing look like the Sunny's? Anyways, we leave the last panel with that at this location with an old man who, was Vegapunk's peer, local, town, a person the same age. I'm just trying to say, and he's like, "Oh wow, how long has it been since I've seen you, Vegapunk?" So I'm actually just noticing the irony that Vegapunk's hometown is also a winter island, and now his new base of operations ended up being a winter island, but he made it climate changed it to for purposes of being useful for his research. And I'm wondering if that part of that is also because he grew up in such a cold area, he wouldn't want to. If he could pick another place, maybe that's why he was at Punk Hazard before it was called that, because it was a jungle island, a tropical summer island, and he probably liked that weather, preferably after growing up in such a cold place. Because we see everyone here dressed up in very rugged, snug kind of like winter coats. And we switch to a couple other places too. First, we go to the kingdom where Chopper ended up. Um, and they're listening. They don't have a visual one. Some of them are gathered together in a little town square area though, uh, and they're talking together. It's about the island. What? Well, the island is. I can't understand what that one's saying. Anyways, they're having a conversation about it. The adults are, and there's two kids sitting there excited to hear this message. Uh, and it's very nice to see all these locations again, actually. And then briefly, we also even the what we end up seeing too is Follett Island as well, and there's a town square area there. So this must be shortly after Garp left, but then everyone's doing their same old stuff here. There's some guys fighting each other, and one of them is trying to watch. They have a visual Denden Mushi up again in this place, and one of them's yelling like, "Hey, get out of my way! I want to watch this." And the other guy's, "No, you get you double crossed me earlier. I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let stop just and pursuing you just because there's an important thing." And there's other ones with swords out, but you do see a bunch of the other pirates in the background all assembled to watch the message. But then you got some other ones, like you got one guy walking around with a lady, and they're just carrying a bottle of rum and such. Oh yeah, you can see. Yeah, this is definitely a sound center area because now that I looked at this panel again, you can see the skull on the where Blackbeard and everyone else live over there on the left side. And we briefly switch to a couple other panels of areas that aren't named while they're all watching on their own visual Denden bushies and mushies in some areas. Um, so now we switch back to Egghead, and uh, and we switch back to right where Mars was about to step on the Denden Mushi, and he stops. He steps on it just as Vegapunk's beginning his the message. Right, the 10-minute lapse is finally over now. After how many chapters we had now, like 3 or 4, but the transmission continues, and Mars realized that he's been duped. That we find out this one here is just a regular Denden Mushi. That's what happened. So York described that the Denden Mushi that's transmitting this will be a special one they made, and when he steps on it, I see he steps on a shell of a that was over covering this regular one, and as a decoy. It's just a regular Denden Mushi that's doing it's like the phone looking ones, the audio ones. And when he crushes it, you can see the phone thing. It's still transmitting. This one's transmitting the audio, but it's not the main one. it's connected with wherever this main one is, and then Marsh is like, shoot, this guy tricked me, uh, and he bursts out of the. We see him get angry, his face turn angry, and then we see him the next panel. He's transformed back into his vulture form, and he's back outside of the punk records, right above the lab, and cursing Vegapunk. And while he's doing that, we also switch briefly to have the audio going on still, and we see Vegapunk going, "Oh, hello guys, how you doing?" And then Stella, Shaka saying in the recording, "Stella, we just did that already. Let's move on." And Vegapunk's okay, fine, let's get started. Uh, and while that happens, we switch again to some other people in other towns. And we got some people celebrating, like, "Oh, it's about to start. Get to it, get to it." And we get one more panel too of another location. We see like it's nighttime at this location, and then some adults are listening, and a kid comes out and just like, "Oh, what's going on?" And the adults are like, "Yeah, it's just some important announcement. Important man is making an important announcement. You could go back to bed." And now we switch back to Mars flying around, and one of the other girls say like, "Mars, what's going on? It's starting. Why haven't you stopped it?" And he's like, "I tried to. We were that Vegapunk was way more cautious than we realized, and I can't figure out how we can stop the broadcast at this time." I had to pick up my cat here. I don't want her to. She sometimes likes to go potty where she shouldn't. Uh, so he continues. Mars continues telling the others. I talked with York, and he told us his message is gonna is part of Vegapunk's wish to carry on the torch, he calls it here, carry the torch of the O'Hara scholars message to like their you gonna see here? Okay. Oh no, she wants to crawl up there. Okay, that's Stella. She likes to do that. Hi, Stella. So this clearly you can see upsets the other Gorosei. We see a panel for it's really all panels. We see the other Gorosei in the forms they're currently in. So we see Shepherd and Top Man still in their animal forms, but you can see that they're like, oh gods, no. And Saturn too is in his like he's in his hybrid form. So is Ethan, but so you can see their faces. And Ethan in particular looks extremely pissed at this. And in the middle of that, we see a brief panel where we see Spotnum's dad and the silhouette of the time, the flashback where he shot Clover. And so they all understand the implication of this and are all extremely upset by it. But so we switch away from that and we go to Sanji and Vegapunk. And Vegapunk, I can't tell. It says he's supposed to be dead here because I think it mentions later, like this message would start once my heart stops. We'll get to that in a minute. But Sanji is talking to Vegapunk like he's still conscious, and he's like, "Oh, do you hear that? Bonnie's in trouble." He goes like, "Yeah, it's the sound of a sweet girl in danger. I must hurry and help her." This is my favorite part of the panel of this chapter. So he's finally caught up to where Frankie and Bonnie are, and he sees Ethan there looming over him, holding Katetsu the first in his hand. And he's like, "What the hell is that thing?" And as he's doing that, Ethan is preparing to kill Bonnie, and he's making this last statement like, "We're not gonna allow you to escape and cede our military might to you." And so as he gets ready to do that, Frankie jumps in front of her and it's like, "No, I'll protect you. Get back." But just as he does that, Sanji gets close and they're like, "No, get out of the way, Frankie. I'll take care of this." If anyone's going to pull off an impressive rescue, he wants to show off to her. And he gets up close and we get this great panel where he comes up to Ethan and kicks him square in the chin. And it's even like, looks like blood comes out when he does that. And he looks enormous though. He's in some huge. His form is like actually made him like even bigger, and even the Kitetsu now looks like it's grown with him because you can see Sanji's size, and the Kitetsu looks like it's 3 or 4 times longer than Sanji's height. See, where was I? Okay, so Sanji, yeah, Sanji wants to impress Bonnie. He's like, if anyone's gonna, do an impressive save to the woman in distress, it's gonna be me. and he's saying that, says to Ethan, like, yeah, just because you're a senile old man doesn't mean we're gonna cut you any slack. And but Ethan, even though he took that kick, he quickly transforms back into his head. He transforms his head into his horse form, which was like, I'm trying to think if anyone else can do that, because like his arms, you see both his arms still there, and he's holding Kitetsu, of course, in one, and he switches to his horse form, and as Sanji is floating down, he grabs Sanji by Sanji's torso, and and gets him in his grip there. Come on, Stella. Um, which everyone's like, oh, Bonnie's here. They have Bonnie like, oh, Sanji, okay, and he'll be okay though. But brief while the action is happening, we switch to Vegapunk's message again, and he's starting to say to and we see another panel too briefly of other people watching somewhere in some cactus like western looking town, I guess. And Vegapunk's going on to say, I confess that I committed 2 grave sins. Uh, and that cuts off there. We're gonna get a little more of it later, but then as that happens, we see that Kashi and what's his name, Kashi and Omio have arrived back, and they see Ethan's form there, and they go in there and grab Ethan and start grappling with him. And as that happens, Sanji's dropped. Actually, I noticed here too, I forgot to mention, when Sanji gets grabbed, he was still carrying Vegapunk when he kicked Ethan, but when he got grabbed by Ethan grabbed Sanji, he was forced to let go of Vegapunk. So we don't know where his body went. It looks like it just fell, which it's not going to be good because he's already injured, but and Ethan's height here at this point, Sanji jumped up it looked like 20, no, how tall is he? No, that's much taller, because I see Omi and Kashi are about the same height or so as Ethan's form. So yeah, Ethan's probably one of the largest zones we've seen here. I think all of them actually are. All the Gorosei forms are especially large for a zone. The closest thing I can think of is like Chopper's awakened medicine ball form. So that's right. So Omi and Kashi must have went back. They had retreated because they were following Dory and Bragi as they made their way to help Luffy, and then they must have went back. So now they're back. They got a good head start and made it back to the ship here, and it came down a moment too soon. Oh, and this is the next cool part. Bonnie takes initiative here. Oh, that's what happens to Stella first. Atlas catches Stella's body as it was falling. And this whole incident gets Bonnie. She gets like I'm not taking this line down anymore either. And she pulls out a new thing she calls distorted future, a giantish future. So she's taking notes from like Luffy's form, and she turns herself into a huge giant. Maybe because she sees the giants. And as she's doing it, she just starts growing. I just like she popped, and she's still got her clothes on and everything. It goes with her. Of course, we see that with zones too. They're not gonna. Oda wouldn't be able to draw her everything ripping off. We actually get to see a panel with the Marines on some ships nearby. Like, what the heck is that? And she gets up there. She jumps in the air, grows into a giant form, and she's coming down to stomp Ethan as the other 2 giants are holding her. Actually, she did this so fast and grew that you see the one, which one is that? I think it's Kashi, the one with the long dark hair. He's like, holy shit, how did she do that? And yeah, they're still holding him Ethan as it happens, and you can see him like trying to struggle to get out of their grip. And then he's like looking behind, like, oh shit, now they're ganging up on me. And so as this happens, we hear more Vegapunk's message, and he's going on. I believe I will soon be executed for these sins I've done. So this message has been programmed to broadcast when my heart stops beating. Uh, so we get to a few more panels of characters listening into this as this happens. We start with Sabaody, and we hear people watching like, oh my God, really? He's dead? But he can't be. He just heard about him in the papers as he was still alive. He was just captured. And we briefly switched to oh, I forget his name. He's that one ally of the Straw Hats from Sabaody that used to look like Sanji, and they're all surprised by this too. Like, oh my God, he can't be dead. How? It was just this morning we heard he's okay, was dead, alive, and the papers were saying Straw Hats had captured him. And then we switch to the German Kingdom, and we briefly see Judge and Caesar. And we see Judge behind. He doesn't say anything. He looks very upset. But Caesar's like, no, I refuse to believe this. You can't die now. We just formed up an alliance in order to surpass you. He actually looks like he's crying a bit, so I'm wondering if he's feeling a little sentimental about Vegapunk passing. And then we switch last in this the jumping around to other areas to Morgan's, and he's just upset about this broadcast thing, and the joke here. He's worried about the television of it as such. He's like, what's this broadcast? Is he trying to kill print with this visual media? Yes, I'm surprised at this point that there hasn't been someone broadcasting this stuff. Like the only other time we saw something like this was when the Marines were broadcasting the fight with Whitebeard before. And then Vegapunk goes on here and he says something here that's a little strange. Like, even if I am killed, I want you guys to understand that do not assume that whoever strikes me down are evil. Oh, actually, no, maybe he's implying the Straw Hats. I was thinking about the Gorosei when he said this, but oh, that's what it is. Yeah. I was right. He's making a message here that he don't believe the propaganda that I was killed by pirates. He said, whoever do not assume that whoever strikes me down is evil, whoever they seem to be. I do not intend to discuss right and wrong here. I'm not someone who's qualified to do that, he says, to talk about things like right and wrong. And while that happens, now we switch to where Saturn has finally crawled up to where all the Straw Hats are. And and so the other Sanji, Brook, we see Sanji, Brook, and Nami have all prepared themselves to fight him. And this moment we get Robin's perspective. She hears his voice because Saturn, when he comes up, says, "Step aside. I have no time to deal with vermin like you." So yeah, he didn't intend to meet them right there. He probably is coming up there to aid Mars in locating the broadcast Den Mushi. But Robin here sits up because she's still in this like floating stretcher, and Chopper's there with her. I think that's Lilith in the background we see briefly too. But Robin sits up here and is like, I recognize that voice. And we go back to the moment where she was watching the call between Clover and Saturn at O'Hara 22 years ago. And then Saturn sees her here at this point. He's like, oh, that's Robin. That's the one Akainu let slip through his fingers. That fool. And yeah, Robin's here is just in shock. So she's like, "Oh, that's one of the five elders." Oh, and she says that aloud. That's right. She says it aloud, and Nami hears this, and then she catches on, and she immediately says to the others, "We have to protect Robin." And immediately everyone takes initiative here. So this is my other favorite moment. Everyone gets ready and starts, because Saturn immediately starts trying to stab Robin. And everyone here takes action. Like Nami grabs Robin and throws her out of the stretcher, and she's like holding her while Usopp's firing his stuff at her and whatever ammunition he's got loaded. And we see Brook has pulled out his sword and is trying to strike at Saturn's legs. Also, it looks like Zeus came out, and yeah, that's right. Nami's holding her staff, and Zeus has come out and is deflecting one of the attacks. Did he like hockey up? He looks like he's hockeyed up. It looks really cool. And then Chopper too. Chopper is puffed, gone into that big puffy form. I don't know what it's called right now. And he actually deflects one of the attacks. You see one of his legs has hit Chopper. Also, Zeus has successfully deflected the one that was, it looks like it was almost right above Robin. And actually, that's why Nami did it. And we see another leg has gone right where Robin was sitting a moment ago in that stretcher and destroyed it. And Nami got Robin out of it not a moment too soon. And yeah, they all just start going after her. It's just such a good moment because now you get this, you're seeing them all like, understanding the implication of the danger their friend is in. And props to Nami for catching on right away the danger once Robin pointed out who he is. Oh, so good to see them all working together as a team. So we switch to more of the message here, and we see well, Mars now is like just flying around the Labo phase area, trying to figure out where that Denden Mushi is. And meanwhile, Vegapunk, his message is going on, and he's going on. I'm sure some of you are not going to be able to accept what I'm saying and might even call me a madman. And so while that's happening, Mars is like, this is not working. I can't figure out where this signal's coming from. I can't sense it anymore. And while that's happening, we switch to Bjork briefly, and she's like, oh, and she's like freaking out now. She's like, this is not good. He's gonna get that message out, and when this is over, they're not gonna let me be a celestial dragon. And then she's trying to think, Bjork, where would he hide this? You're a Vegapunk. And then we go over to Vegapunk's message one more time. He's like, even if you guys do think I'm a madman, it's my duty to make sure you guys are aware of this issue. So while this is happening, wait, where is it? I don't have that bit. All right. Mars starts talking to the others, and he's like, this is not working. Should we just destroy the whole power station and to stop this? But York made it clear, like, if you do that, so he's implying here, like, we'll just destroy everything. But Saturn responds first and say, no, we can't do that. That's out of the question. There's all kinds of, we have all these Marines and ships and equipment that everything would get destroyed. We'd lose a lot of resources. And then Top Man speaks up too and says, we can't do that as well because now we'll have no means of replicating the Mother Flame. So I forgot to mention, this is the last 2 pages now, where we start with a conversation among the Gorosei. And we get to the final panels, and Vegapunk finally gets, I'll cut to the chase. Our world is going to sink into the ocean. And there's like a big da-dum. And Oda does this wide panel again with Vegapunk with Egghead Island. And you see all the ships, and there's like sunlight pouring through now. And you see some of the Marines who are there, like, what? What the hell? And we end the panel, the very last panel, just switches to the ocean, where we see several mermaids just swimming there. End of chapter. I was reading immediately. I'm thinking our first thoughts, if you're all been watching and reading all One Pieces, would go to the Noah back at Fishman Island. I went back and reread some of that this morning. I was looking at the chapters like 648 or thereabouts, where the sea beast showed up and helped Shirahoshi because they wanted to protect the Noah as well, and they responded to her cries for help. This is starting to make more sense why the Noah likely exists, because like Oda is clearly going for some kind of biblical flood moment here, I think that's the one thing too. The way this translation is, I'm thinking it's implying the other way. So because of the existence of Noah, I'm thinking this means that not that the world's going to sink, but there might be some cataclysmic flood, and the Noah's existence is meant to save people as many as possible from uh, the demise that will happen if many islands are flooded and destroyed by such an event. So a lot to go over there. I'm actually going to be now going over some. I'm definitely going to do a new video now on this. I want to reread some of Fishman Island, and I want to get up to date on reading about the Noah's Ark thing, because this is quite the thing that's going on here. Actually, this was funny too, because I was looking back at the chapter where the Gorosei were talking, and they were talking themselves about needing to cleanse the world because they couldn't maintain. They would be unable to maintain this balance anymore with them and the Yanko and all that stuff like that. I thought they were implying and the troubles with the revolutionaries. And I was thinking they were talking about a cleansing, and although I think no, I was thinking about something like that back then. I was like, oh, they're gonna like flood something or something like that. Made me think of that before. But now it's likely what when the Gorosei were talking about that at Reverie, that they were implying that now that they had the mother flame, they were gonna use that to start this cleansing, and that's where they went. And then they tested on Lulusia. So I think I'll just about end it today. So like, holy shit, there's so much happened. So the best part is I'm glad that Vegapunk was planning ahead to planned ahead in case the Gorosei or I guess even like someone like Kizaru came. I'm wondering if he like I think I already said this once too, that he maybe just put some of those Denden Mushies somewhere out at sea, not left it right in the island, so that as a contingency for this. And there's so many other good moments here. I love it that everything. I was getting really worried about this, but we have so many people still. There's so many allies on our side. This is like just like I just don't know what's going to happen next year. We got Sanji and Kashi and Omi fighting one Gorosei. We got Destroy Hats against Saturn. Actually, and also that's right. And Bonnie's helping the other three I mentioned, and it's just so much going on in this one. And also, it was nice to see Kaya again. She's looking good, and it's nice to see Mary because poor Mary, the live action decided to off him. So I'm kind of glad he's not going to. That's the thing. Everyone keeps talking about that with Pell, and I do feel like Pell was the way they had Pell's sacrifice he should have actually died. But Mary, I'm fine with being alive. And that's something else. I have a feeling that Pell will be killed off in the live action in the next season. So, anyways, that's where I'm gonna leave it today. We got a lot to mull over here.